Pakistan, India's neighbor, has been experiencing economic difficulties for some time. The nation has been denied additional funds from International Monetary Fund despite extremely high inflation and extremely low forex reserves. Pakistan's economy has been unstable for a long time. The difference today is that it is now on the brink of collapse. The World Bank in its report has quoted that over the past 2 decades, Pakistan has achieved significant poverty reduction, but human development outcomes have lagged, while economic growth has remained volatile and slow. Pakistan is facing its worst ever economic crisis. It experienced a high inflation in 2022 of about 24.5%. Pakistan was finally taken off the Financial Action Task Force grey list in 2022 after being on it for many years. This had impact on Pakistan's standing globally and led to imposition of several economic sanctions. In Pakistan, the cost of wheat flour has been steadily rising to uncomfortable proportions. The cost of perishable foods has increased by over 56%. We can also see the rise in terrorism. In an effort to split Pakistan into 2 countries, Taliban Pakistan (TTP) has increased its terrorist activity since 2022. We can also observe Pakistan's rupee has reached a record low. The value of the Pakistani rupee has reached about 225 rupees against $1 American dollar. Pakistani's foreign exchange reserves have also reached a record low level, only $4.5 billion. With this, Pakistan can run for next few days only because it has to spend a large chunk of money on buying essential products like petroleum, grains and sugar. There are 7 major reasons behind Pakistan's economic crisis. The World Bank expects the growth in Pakistani's economy to reach only around 2% in financial year 23 due to the recent devastating floods. This situation has delayed the much needed economic adjustment as Pakistan's economy was already undergoing an overdue adjustment in early financial year 23 as it recovered from the impacts of COVID-19. Pakistan's total external debt stocks increased to $130 billion by end of 2021 from $115 by end 2020. This increase in external debt has pushed Pakistan's debt to GDP ratio to a dangerous zone of 70%. Additionally, 40 to 50% of government revenue is earmarked for the interest payments this year. Out of Pakistan's $27 billion in bilateral debt, around $23 billion is made up of Chinese loans. Inflation in Pakistan was at a 48-year high in January 2023, with the rate worsening to 27.55%, which was observed recently. This is due to several factors, including the government's decision to curtail imports, resulting in a shortage of food items, raw materials, and equipment. Higher inflation tends to have a depressing effect on value of country's currency, which brings us to the next factor. Pakistani rupee has been experiencing a significant drop in value against the US dollar. For instance, on January 26, 2023, it fell 9.6% against the dollar, the biggest one-day drop in over 2 decades. Pakistan's central bank removed an artificial cap on the rupee last week, resulting in it losing 14.73% in interbank trading during the last 3 trading sessions. This situation may persuade the International Monetary Fund to resume lending to the country. Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves dropped to $4.3 billion in January 2023, the lowest since 2014. This is due to the paying of some of the country's external debt payments. While commercial banks hold $5.8 billion, the total liquid foreign reserves held by the country stood at $9.45 billion as of January 20, 2023, according to the State Bank of Pakistan. Pakistan is highly import dependent, particularly with regard to energy, which renders it actually vulnerable to hikes in global oil and gas prices. The recent massive outrage has added to the country's woes as it has installed power capacity, but it lacks the resources to run its oil and gas powered plants that are heavily in debt and cannot afford to invest in infrastructure and power lines. Some of the power infrastructure was built as part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a framework of regional connectivity. This infrastructure has reportedly added to Pakistan's debt as the country cannot even operate them. The constant political chaos in Pakistan may undermine a coherent and timely policy response. No Pakistani Prime Minister has completed a full 5-year term in office, and the current government's tenure will end in August. This instability poses a challenge for the future, especially with regards to whether the government and opposition can cooperate on a joint pledge to push through any IMF demands to avert a default. By the year 2008, Pakistan's external debt was 6,435 billion Pakistani rupees. Being an election year, Pakistan People's Party came to power in that year, and during its 5-year tenure, it has increased the country's debt by 135%, resulting in a huge increase to Pakistani rupees. That is 15,096 billion Pakistani rupees by the year 2013. This amounted to 64% of the country's GDP. A large increase in this debt was domestic, with external debt increasing by 22%. Hence, the external debt, which was at $42.8 billion in 2008, reached $52.4 billion in 2013. The election of 2013 brought Nawaz Sharif to power, under whose rule the external debt increased by 226.8%, that is from $52.4 billion to $75.3 billion. The primary reason for this debt increase was the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, through which Pakistan procured loans from China and in turn awarded contracts to only Chinese companies. This also resulted in high imports from China. Imran Khan came to power in 2018 and subsequently added to the increasing external debt to $110.6 billion during his rule. As per IMF data, it has distributed 21 loans to Pakistan through the years. The first request emerging from the country as early as 1958. Since then, IMF had agreed to disburse a total loan amount of $31.73 billion, of which $20 billion has been disbursed through different transactions like standby agreements, extended fund facility, extended credit facility, and structural adjustment facility commitment. An IMF loan is released in these different installments based on certain norms that are set by the lender. And finally, coming to the major question, should India worry? The answer is both yes and no. People are fed up. People are protesting in POK. The residents of Pakistan occupied Kashmir are ready to join India. If this happens, it can lead to law and order issues in India. India's exports to Pakistan might also get affected due to this crisis. Moreover, it is speculated that the deep economic crisis in Pakistan might increase Chinese influence in the country. This might directly or indirectly affect India. If you find this video informative, please hit the like button and do subscribe for more informative videos.